What did your therapist tell you that changed your life? Stop trying to get everyone to agree. When you need everyone to agree, the least agreeable person has all the power. Really changed my outlook on planning family events. Don't think of the relationship as over. Think of it as complete. Fundamentally changed how I was processing a tough breakup. So helpful. I've never really had friends. I've had colleagues and classmates and housemates and people who have hung out with me, but I never really felt close to any of them. And I did that thing you see on here sometimes. I stopped reaching out to see if I would be reached out to, and I wasn't, which I took as confirmation that they didn't really want me around, or at the very least, that they wouldn't mind my absence. I was talking to my therapist about people I'd been close to in college, and she told me to pick one and talk about him. So I did. And after I shared some basic stuff like his name and his major, etc., and a couple anecdotes, she asked me what else I knew about him, and I couldn't answer. It wasn't a thing that changed everything for me, but she said, "What else?" And I started crying because I realized that for as simple as the question was, my inability to answer spoke volumes. I've never had good friends because I've never been a good friend. I'm withdrawn and reserved, and I always made others do the work to drag me out without ever extending my own friendship in a meaningful way in return. If I wanted to have meaningful relationships with other people, I would have to build them. I'm still working on this, but I'm trying to make more offers and extend more friendliness to others in my daily life. How was anger expressed in your household growing up? Were you allowed to show anger? At which point I realized I wasn't allowed to show any negative emotions whatsoever, especially not in reaction to negative emotions from my parents. You are not responsible for your parents' emotional well-being. They are independent adults who have been on this earth for many more years than you. Your mom is never going to be the parent you want or need, so stop expecting her to be and being mad that she isn't. Also, people who are addicts tend to get frozen at the time they started abusing drugs or alcohol because their focus is their addiction and not developing as a person. So a person who started drinking heavily at 13 and quit at 30 would behave a lot like a 13-year-old. My counselor said to imagine myself as an orange, then consider that not all people like oranges. That doesn't mean that the orange is flawed in any way, not rotten, just that everyone has preferences. That helped ease my insecurities and need for people-pleasing dramatically. Am I the only one lurking in the comments for free therapy? For context, I had a major TBI, seizures, strokes, and all around not a fun brain time when I was 28. You have to grieve the loss of yourself. Most people wanted me to go back to how I was. The fucked up truth is that part of my brain is dead. The person everyone, including myself, knew died. I needed to grieve the loss of myself. Why do you make people more comfortable when you are uncomfortable? When talking about people pleasing and fawning, accepting something doesn't mean you have to like it. That took away a lot of my inner conflicts about situations because I could accept a situation without expending energy internally fighting against the injustice of it. I don't want to take meds because I don't want to rely on drugs to feel okay. Don't you already do that? My therapist in the session before I finally saw a psychiatrist and got officially diagnosed with bipolar 2, I was heavily self-medicating at the time, but of course didn't see it that way because it wasn't a prescription. Will worrying about it change the outcome? If the answer is yes, go ahead and worry about it. I suddenly realized that I couldn't think of a situation where the answer to that question was ever yes. Really short-circuited the worry cycle for me. You always talk about not wanting to do to your daughters what your mom did to you. You worry about it so much in every interaction you have ever had with them. But your children are 19 and 21 now. They are happy and healthy, and they trust you because you've never abused them in any way. So I just want to validate for you that you really have broken that cycle of violence. You did that, and you should be proud of it. I'm proud of you for it. At the time, I was into getting tarot card readings and seeing psychics. My therapist told me he has psychic clients who come to him ashamed about the excessive amount of lying they do every day. Haven't been to a psychic or tarot card reader since. We judge ourselves by our intentions, and everyone else by their actions. I was at a high-stress time, and I asked her how people live like this. She replied, oftentimes they have cardiac events. She said it as an urging to care for myself as much as possible. If you don't have these problems with any other person in your life, why do you think you're the problematic person in this one? Emotions are not bad, even the unpleasant ones. They all have an appropriate place. You are not special. I was having some very strong anxiety at the time, especially in regards to other people. I felt like I was judged everywhere. Like I couldn't go to the store, take the bus, or even go to a walk because I felt people were judging my every move, how I dressed, how was my hair, how I talked, even how I walked. Every stranger was thinking bad of me. It was scary as hell. I was telling her about this, and how I started avoiding going out, which was a problem because I had to go to college soon. And she looked me straight in the eyes and told me, "Jennifer, I'm telling you this with all the care of the world, but you are not special. There is nothing that would make me think twice if we crossed in the street." It's harsh, and it is exactly what I needed. All the anxiety didn't let me see that until she said it. Of course, she helped me some other ways, but this really changed my life when she said it. I could go to college and be out because of it. Is it your anxiety or hers? Background: I have an overbearing mother who needs to know as much as she can about what I'm doing on my own time to sleep well at night. She basically treats me like a rebellious kid in a teen movie from the 90s when I'm an independent, grown-ass woman approaching my mid-30s. At the time my therapist said this, I was 28-ish and panicking about an upcoming business trip. Not the trip itself, but her reaction to me leaving the state for a few days. As I was going down the list of texts I knew she'd bombard me with, my therapist dropped this. She gave me permission to opt out of managing her fears like I had been doing for years. You can't control your emotions, but you can control what you do with them. At the time, I was a young adult who had learned zero healthy emotional regulation skills, only suppression and shaming growing up, so this blew my mind. Also, your partner should enhance what you like most about yourself. It made dating so much easier. No need to settle for less than that. It was so simple, yet something I hadn't heard before. You didn't deserve that. First session, going over history, talking about how sad I am and how it affects my marriage. And after describing our relationship, the counselor said, "Wow, you're really going through a lot of mental and emotional abuse." What? Honestly, I didn't know it was a thing. She was right. It took me a few years, but I was able to get out. I used to say a lot of things I wanted to do and then follow up with, "But it's hard." My therapist asked me one time how it would feel to say what I wanted to do and then say, "And it's hard." I can't believe I hadn't considered that myself in 4 decades, but man, did it change my mindset on certain things. There's nothing wrong with you. You were just picking the wrong people to be friends with. I got some new friends, and my life changed pretty dramatically after that. When you use the words "I should," you're silently finishing the sentence with, "in order to be worthy of love and respect." Should is a much smaller part of my vocabulary now. My therapist traced me on a big piece of paper, so I could see how big or small I was. I thought him and I were about the same size. I got him to lay on top of the paper and I disappeared. Seeing my size that way made my brain begin to think differently. It helped me realize I was not fat. At 5'2" and 110 pounds, I needed to realize that. Years of bullying fucks with one's brain. They literally do not give a shit about you, so why do you care about them? Letting me know it was time to move forward from some hurt that I held onto for a long time, and understand vindication and atonement doesn't always come.